Time for another tea. How's it going? Continuing with the martial arts books, again, a book that I read back in the early days. And I was training in a dojo in Green Lane, which was basically a full-time dojo. It was part of a social club, and they gave us our own floor, and two floors actually, one for training and a changing room. And we had our own keys. We could go there whenever we liked. It was really great, and we had a good little bunch of guys. And it was basically set up by Harry Benfield, R.I.P., who was who I later worked with in security. Anyway, there was a book that came out, and most of us read it, and we really enjoyed it. It was called the Karate Dojo, Tales and Traditions of a Martial Art by Peter Urban. And it had a lot of myths and stories in it. And as a young brown belt at the time, basically I wanted this stuff to be true. I wanted these masters to be able to do supernatural things. So that's kind of why I always enjoyed that book. And later on, I learned more of the truth. Peter Urban was an instructor in New York, and I used to read about him in things like Black Belt magazine and so on. And a lot of American instructors who seem to have very high grades for some reason, whereas most of the guys in Europe and South Africa and so on had much lower grades. And what it was there was a lot of American military based in Japan and Okinawa. And when they used to do a tour there, they would go along to a dojo and sign up. And some of the dojos were renowned for basically handing out grades willy-nilly to have a base in America. And it was just a purely commercial thing. So a lot of those instructors fell into that category. And some of them, I later found out, some of the systems that they were graded in were not very highly regarded back in Okinawa. That's not Peter Urban. Peter Urban trained at the Goju-kai under Gogen Yamaguchi, and what was a genuine, generally high-graded black belt. I read a couple of comments by third parties whose opinion I respect, that he was technically very proficient. And I actually met a guy on a course who came over to the UK and who had trained Peter Urban's dojo, and he rated him highly. So that's the chap who wrote the book. There's a lot of as I say, a lot of myths and legends in the book, and they're very entertaining. Always one that always kind of intrigued us was about Choku Motobu, a famous Okinawan master, and in the book he's put down as being 7'4" tall. Okay, now when I was writing for Fighting Arts magazine, one of my colleagues, Graham Noble, who was a really good researcher on the martial arts, did an article about this guy and said he was probably 5'3". And similarly, there's a story about Gogen Yamaguchi, the Goju-kai master, that when he was a prisoner in Manchuria, fought a tiger and choked it to death. So on the same basis, it was probably a hamster or something like that. But nevertheless, myths and legends can be inspirational, and I really do think that these stories made us train hard and aspire to something that, even though it was a false reality, it certainly had a motivating effect on us. And I really enjoyed that book. And I don't know if I'd say you should read it to be well-rounded in the martial arts, but I certainly think you would be entertained by it.